But I believe that when you vote no, when you vote yes, and everybody else votes the other way, I think you're standing up for something. And that's ultimately how I was raised. I'm the oldest of 5 boys in my family. My parents said, listen, it's your morals and principles, that's all you have. And if you can't compromise those, then what do you really stand for? And so what I tell voters is, hold us accountable. I'm not a perfect candidate. Listen, if you're looking for the perfect candidate, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to know every answer, but what I can tell you is that I'm going to be straightforward, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you how I think about a particular situation, but I think that's what we need in our elected leaders, no matter what level, whether it be local, state, federal. And that's the type of person that I am. And I ask folks, hold me accountable. One of the reasons I got in this race is because when I had my door knocked 6 years ago by my opponent, he said he was going to do this or do that and do all these things. If you look at the record doesn't match the rhetoric. And I think we need people in office who will say, hold me accountable, and if I knock on your doors 2 years from now, if I'm fortunate to get elected with your support, I'm going to ask you to knock on your door, just like I've done this year. And ask for your support. I'm going to say, did I do what I said I was going to do? And did I do my best? And I think that's ultimately what we ask for our leaders, and that's what I would say to you.
I think that's right on 2 minutes, man. Will you join the Liberty Caucus? And in other words, what current office holders in the State House would you most closely identify with?
I think, listen, I would join whatever caucus wants to push forward conservative legislation. Let's sign me up for that caucus, whether it be the Freedom Caucus, whatever the case may be. But I think generally speaking, yes, I would. So if I get asked to join the Freedom Caucus, I think I would. And I don't know which legislator I follow most closely. I think ultimately we're all are different people. We're all unique. I've seen, for example, you've got Matt Krause here in the district or nearby. He's someone that I look at. Jeff Leach, I think he's someone that as well. I mean, you've got a lot of folks. There's different people have different purposes. You take a Jonathan Stickland. Jonathan Stickland, he sticks for his principles and he kills a lot of bad bills. Whether people agree with him or not, he stands for what he believes in. And his district has reelected him. So he's doing something right with the people he represents. And ultimately, for me, as your representative in House District 98, I want to represent you. Both of you guys are the only people that I would care about and I would focus as far as if I happen to get down there. And that's the type of policy I want to push for. But I think, ultimately, to answer your question, listen, I'm my own person. I think as a conservative, and we need people in office who are able to actually push for some conservative legislation. Every person down there serves a unique purpose, and for me, it's I want to push legislation. I want to be the type of conservative that can actually push bills that affect you. Things like taxes, or school funding with Robin Hood, or immigration. I want to be an effective leader, and not someone that just talks about things and makes promises. I want to do that, and if I can't do that in 2 or 3 terms, like my opponent's been there, maybe I'm not the right guy for the job. But I think that's what we need. We need folks who are willing to say, hey, listen, if there's issues, I want to address it, and ultimately be held accountable for that.
Please discuss term limits and your position on them generally.
Yeah, I think we need term limits. And the reason is this, when you're there for too long, 6 years going on 8, you become complacent and you start catering to the people that fund your campaigns. And it doesn't matter what level, local, state, federal. I serve on the city council, I've been there for 3 years, 1 term. I feel very proud about the work we did. We lowered the rate, we increased the homestead exemption, something I helped introduce for the first time in 30 years in California. We went from 1% to 8%. We wrote an ethics policy, something I co-authored with Rick Barnes, who's running for tax assessor as well. And I feel very proud about it. There's some things I agree, some things I don't that we've done, but bottom line, I feel proud. And I think ultimately when you do what you said you're going to do, you move on. I think to hold a seat just to hold a seat is not what our founding fathers intended to be like.
Right.
And bottom line, if there's no political will to have term limits, then I think we need to start electing people who will impose them on themselves. And that's what I'm telling folks is, listen, again, if I can't do the job for 2 or 3 terms, then I'm not the right guy. It's time for us to move on. And I believe that. That's what I was intended to do. I want to serve, get the job done, move on or back out. I've got 2 little kids. Believe me, there's other things I could be doing. But I want to focus on our district, and that is a big priority for me and my family, and that's why I'm in this race. And yeah, we need term limits, so that way we get fresh perspectives and fresh ideas, and I think that's important no matter what level of government.
Okay, clap. The next 2 minutes, describe how you're going to fix school financing.
Yeah, so that's a loaded question. Everybody turn the cameras down. No. So here's the reality. It's if you want to address the tax issue, take a look at your bill. No matter where you live in this district, Keller, Colleyville, Southlake, Grapevine, over 60% of your bill is your school bill. It's a school portion. And so, for example, in Keller, we lower the rate, increase the homestead, but you still pay more. And the reason is because the appraisal went up. Every time you get hit with a 10% appraisal cap, unless you're getting a 10% raise, you're going to be hurt. And so we've got to address how we fund our schools. If you look at 2016, there was a statewide proposition. 70% of the people said, hey, listen, we don't want to see an income tax, but we also want to get away from dependency on property taxes. And so what I've said is, listen, let's start having a conversation about what does it look like if we move to a consumption-based model. Now, there's pros and cons, I get it. But what I want to say is, listen, now if you own a home, or if you rent a home, or if you're doing business in the state, or if you're visiting the state as a tourist, or if you're an illegal immigrant, now you're contributing to the system, you're expanding the base, and you're lowering the dependency on homeowners. And to me, I think that's ultimately the type of direction we have to go. You know, the idea that teachers spend up to $1,000 out of their own pocket for school supplies, that to me is incomprehensible.
You're here.
The fact that school administrators get 6 to 10% raises, but teachers get nothing, is ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
And so we have to find a way to be able to maintain local money. I mean, if you're in Grapevine, Colleyville, for example, $44 million each and every year gets recaptured back down Austin. In the last 10 years, that's over $320 million that you guys here in this district have paid. In Carroll ISD, it's $26 million each and every year that we're losing out. Over $200 million in the last 10 years. These are bonds. We just recently had a bond in Carroll ISD. And that's money that could have stayed here, that's money that could have gone to our teachers, towards our classrooms. And I think ultimately, if you want to address the issue, it's we've got to fix how we're funding our schools. Real quickly, if I can say this. I know I went over 2 minutes. What my opponent proposed to do was, it's House Bill 21. And this was his solution to the problem, and I just disagreed. He wanted to take $2 billion from the rainy day fund and move it to this fiscal year. That's a Band-Aid to a problem. Because if you really think about it, what that creates, it creates a $4 billion hole for the next fiscal year. And I don't think we get elected to just put Band-Aids just because of political expediency. We get elected to address the issues. And I get it, it's complex. I think you need to include administrators and parents and teachers and all the proper taxing entities, bring them to the table. But we as a society, as a district, we're better than just kicking the can down the road. And since 1993, everybody said it's a problem. Well, we got to fix it. And that's part of the reason, really, that prompted me to get involved in this race. I want to try to be able to fix it. And that means that we have to get together with all different entities and different people and have that type of conversation.
Thank you. Let's talk about your ideas for better accountability testing in schools. And the questioner is basically asking, seems to believe that there was too much emphasis placed on the District of Innovation last session than there was towards emphasis on good instruction. And so the question is, how would you deal with actual production, getting good education out of kids? What kind of testing would you have?
Yeah, I think, for example, our STAR testing, I think we over-test our kids.
You're here.
I think bottom line, what we want is, as a society, we want to be able to provide our kids with a good, sound education. And I don't care how you get it. I just want a good, we all want this. We all want kids educated. Because bottom line, and I've said this from the beginning, I think the single biggest economic development tool we can have as a state is actually an educated workforce. You look at Toyota. Toyota didn't come here because the state gave them some sort of incentive. GE, which opened a locomotive plant over by Motor Speedway a couple of years ago, they didn't come here because of some incentive. They came here because we have a workforce that's willing and ready to go and work. And so bottom line for me, I think STAR testing, I think it puts the emphasis on the wrong things. I think we need real-time feedback for our teachers. Our teachers need some sort of evaluation, I understand that. And I've spoken to a lot of teachers knocking on doors, a lot of them which are supporting us. But for them, they're saying, hey, we want real-time assessments. So that way, if I need to do something, if I need to change, every kid learns differently. And they need to reassess for a particular kid. Well, what good does it have for you to wait 3 months for some test that frankly doesn't test, how the kid is learning? And so real-time assessments, I think, are important. I think so that way the teachers have the ability to correct whatever they're doing. Every kid learns differently, and I think those are the type of things we should be focusing on, as opposed to just some STAR test that frankly doesn't really assess how well